Tonight, we saw she was given a special security escort to Court 6 last night. There were thousands of Filipinos who tried to get a glimpse of the star on Court 6. Hundreds didn't manage to get in. They were, in fact, quite rowdy at times, told to be quiet.
Alex Eala, the pride of the Philippines and one of tennis' fastest rising stars, has just received an extraordinary invitation back to Australia, and this time, it comes directly from the Australian president himself. Not for a routine tournament appearance, not for another standard match, but for a special exhibition showdown in Melbourne. And make no mistake, this is far more than just tennis. This is a statement. Let's rewind to what happened at the Australian Open. When Alex Eala arrived in Melbourne, something unforgettable unfolded. Wave after wave of Filipino fans filled the grounds. Flags were raised high. Her name echoed through the stadium. The atmosphere was electric, emotional, powerful, historic. It wasn't just support. It was a movement. Melbourne had rarely witnessed anything like it. But there was one heartbreaking reality. The demand to see Eala was overwhelming. The stadium reached full capacity, and thousands of passionate supporters were left outside, unable to watch their hero compete live. For many, it was a once-in-a-lifetime moment they couldn't experience from inside the arena. Fast forward to today. The Australian president saw it. He understood it. He recognized what Alex Eala represents, not just as an athlete, but as a cultural phenomenon capable of uniting communities and filling arenas beyond expectations. So he took action. In a move that speaks volumes about respect and recognition, he personally invited Alex Eala back to Australia for a special exhibition match in Melbourne before her next tournament. This wasn't a WTA scheduling decision. This wasn't a marketing strategy from tournament organizers. This was a direct response to the people. A leader stepping in to make sure the fans who were left outside last time finally get their moment. Because Alex Eala isn't just playing tennis anymore. She's creating history.
Last time we saw the record broken for the first Tuesday, set at about 58,000 back in 2020. That has now been broken today, set at about 61,000. So as you can see, just another ripper start to the Australian Open.
And once again, history repeated itself. Thousands of Eala fans flooded the streets of Melbourne, marching toward the stadium just for the chance to see their tennis idol. The energy was undeniable. The excitement was palpable. Flags waved proudly, chants echoed through the air, and the atmosphere felt more like a festival than a simple exhibition match. But despite the organizers' best efforts to accommodate everyone, the venue reached full capacity yet again. The stadium was packed. Thousands more were left outside. The demand to see Alex Eala play live is simply that overwhelming. For security reasons, Eala was escorted to the arena under government protection. Australian authorities were taking no risks with crowds of that magnitude. The turnout wasn't just impressive, it was massive. And when she finally stepped onto the court, she owned it. The crowd erupted. The noise was deafening. The atmosphere inside the stadium was electric, almost historic. And Alex Eala delivered exactly what the fans had come for: dazzling shot-making, fearless tennis, and that infectious smile that has captured hearts across the globe. But this is where the story takes an interesting and slightly controversial turn. Aryna Sabalenka, the current world number 1 in the WTA rankings, is reportedly less than pleased about the situation. Think about it. The president of Australia organizing a special exhibition in Eala's honor, providing presidential-level recognition and government security, while the top-ranked player in the world has not received similar treatment. Now, let's be absolutely clear. Aryna Sabalenka is an extraordinary athlete. She earned her number 1 ranking through relentless work, elite performances, and undeniable dominance on the court. She deserves respect. She deserves recognition. No question about it. But what's happening with Alex Eala is different. This isn't purely about rankings. It's about connection. It's about a player who ignites something emotional in people. It's about the pride of a nation. It's about a massive Filipino community that shows up in numbers, in passion, and in unwavering loyalty. Alex Eala may not be in the top 10 yet. She currently sits at number 40 in the WTA rankings, notably 9 spots higher than during the Australian Open. Her rise is steady and real. But rankings alone don't measure impact. What makes Alex Eala special is the extraordinary bond she shares with her supporters, especially the global Filipino community. That connection is powerful. It fills streets. It fills stadiums. It forces leaders to take notice.
She's got a lot of global stardom to her. She's had some incredible results and she's beaten players like Madison Keys and Iga Swiatek. So she's the real deal, already top 50 in the world.
And through all of this, Alex Eala has handled the spotlight with remarkable grace. Despite the overwhelming attention, the massive crowds, and even the political headlines, she has remained humble. Every time she speaks, it's with gratitude. She consistently thanks her supporters and emphasizes that this journey is bigger than just her personal success. Because for Alex, this isn't only about rankings or trophies. She knows she's carrying something much greater, the hopes and pride of millions of Filipinos around the world who see in her a symbol of possibility, perseverance, and national pride. But what truly sparked this presidential-level response? It began with a powerful voice speaking out. Novak Djokovic, one of the greatest players in tennis history, publicly criticized the Women's Tennis Association over how Eala was handled during the Australian Open. According to Djokovic, tournament organizers made a serious mistake by placing Eala on smaller outside courts, despite the undeniable reality that thousands of fans had come specifically to watch her compete. The demand was obvious. The crowds were overwhelming. Yet the scheduling, in his view, failed to reflect that. In his words, Alex Eala is the greatest tennis player the Philippines has ever produced, and she deserves all the respect in the world. But as Djokovic suggested, that respect wasn't fully reflected in the way she was treated. He went even further. Djokovic implied that the poor court scheduling, the chaotic crowd control, the disruption, the lack of appropriate accommodation for her fanbase may have played a role in her first-round exit in Melbourne. When thousands are trying to squeeze into limited seating, when the environment becomes unstable and tense, that pressure inevitably affects performance. His comments didn't just make headlines. They amplified a growing conversation about fairness, recognition, and whether rising global stars are being managed appropriately by the sport's governing bodies. And from that moment on, the discussion was no longer just about one match. It became about respect.
Things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's Alex Eala. That's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country. And
think about what Novak Djokovic is really saying here. He's arguing that environment matters enormously. The size of the court, the atmosphere, the roar or absence of the crowd, lighting, surface conditions, overall energy. At a Grand Slam like the Australian Open, those details aren't minor. They can shape momentum, confidence, and performance under pressure. When you place a player who attracts thousands onto a smaller outside court, knowing that most of her supporters won't even be able to get inside, you're not exactly setting the stage for her to thrive. And Djokovic's criticism struck a nerve. It sparked debate. It raised questions about how the Women's Tennis Association manages emerging global stars. Why would one of the tour's most talked-about players be scheduled in a way that limits access to the very fans driving her popularity? Apparently, that conversation reached beyond tennis circles. Seeing the frustration after Melbourne, thousands of disappointed fans who had traveled long distances just to see their hero, the Australian leadership stepped in. The exhibition match wasn't random. It was a response, a platform, a correction, an acknowledgement. And yet, even with a specially organized event and presidential backing, the stadium still couldn't hold everyone who came to support Alex Eala. That tells you something powerful. Her popularity isn't casual. It's accelerating, rapidly. This level of devotion is rare in tennis. It transcends rankings. It goes beyond wins and losses. It's the kind of connection that turns a player into something bigger than an athlete, into a symbol. For millions of Filipinos around the world, Eala represents pride, visibility, and excellence on a global stage. And that kind of impact can't be measured solely by a number next to her name. Since Melbourne, she has continued climbing, moving from outside the top 50 to around number 40 in the world. That's real progress. It proves she's not just a cultural phenomenon, she's developing into a serious competitor on tour. What this entire situation highlights, though, is a deeper tension. The WTA operates on structure, rankings, seedings, established protocols. From a competitive standpoint, that makes sense. Order matters. But when a player consistently draws massive crowds, generates global media attention, and elevates the sport's visibility, maybe flexibility becomes necessary. The Australian decision-makers seem to understand that. They saw an opportunity to celebrate rising greatness and respond to what fans were clearly demanding. As for Aryna Sabalenka, if reports of frustration are true, that reaction is understandable from a competitor's perspective. She's the world number one. Her achievements are undeniable and fully earned. But this situation isn't about diminishing her accomplishments. It's about recognizing that professional tennis ultimately belongs to the fans. And when fans speak this loudly, when they fill streets, overflow arenas, and force logistical reconsiderations, it's worth paying attention. Alexandra Eala's story is only beginning. Ranked around 40th and rising. Backed by passionate supporters worldwide. Publicly defended by legends like Djokovic. The decision to bring her back to Melbourne wasn't just a gesture. It was recognition. Recognition that something significant is happening. That popularity, cultural resonance, and emotional connection now stand alongside rankings in shaping the future of the sport. A new chapter is unfolding in women's tennis. And with every match she plays, Alexandra Eala is helping write it.